Hello and welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone's doing well. I thought I'd try and do a shorter video before I head out of town. Because I'll be gone for a little while, so see if I can follow up on that first Paradise video with another one that talks about some of the, or at least one of the things that I mentioned in that video. If you recall, I spoke about this idea of paradise being within you, right? That unlike the idea of heaven, it is not some other place. And it is my strong belief that one is a lie and the other is real. So I also mentioned something mostly in passing, didn't really dig into it. And this is something that it will take a lot to open up anyway. So this is just a foray into describing my understanding of this. And that is that the mythology, the understanding that religions have about this fall of humanity, that we once had something or were a certain way and we have lost part of that. That is a description, a analogy for something that, again, is part of Dante's Inferno and these other stories that we have of creation myths and different spiritual stories that we have in many cultures and through our history. And it's this idea of a journey that you're going through to discover your true self. And that, as I tried to describe in that Paradise video, and I'll say again maybe more clearly right this second, is that your true self is where paradise is. Your true self is in paradise. But your fall is not from some sort of superhuman position or as Christians like to talk about it, that you were supernatural. It's actually from a natural self, and that you've fallen into an animal kind of behavior. And that is into this outer persona, into your ego and pride. Which again, the first descriptor in this mythology that I come from Christianity, is about the fall from pride, right? It's about the fall of the so-called of the angels, of these spiritual beings, and it's not a separate thing. This fall is along the same lines. We do the same thing. But when we fall away from paradise, from the true self, into the more animal self, the external representation of person to the world, into this outer persona. And so, to tie it in with, like what Carl Jung will talk about with the subconscious, is that in my experience of this, and I'm going to use my own terminology here, is that your subconscious is your true self calling out to this persona that you've descended into. And it's why you are mentally unstable and unhealthy until you work with your subconscious, right? That you will have all of these different ways that you move through life and how you treat yourself and how you treat others that are unhealthy, because you are not living in integrity with the reality, the real that is inside of you. And I tried to also explain that, again, I am spiritual, come from a religious background, that I found the one who made me there. It's not just that your true self is there, it's that your true self is inseparable from the one that made it. I think about the description of the garden of paradise and Adam walking in it, and how it says, and he walked with God. And we always picture, we have made everything about what we can measure and weigh. And because of that, we always picture this walking as being, Adam in some different place, a different place that we can't find, right? External to ourselves, walking with the Creator, the one who is. But what I have come to understand, and what all of these mythologies have been, and in religion through history, not just now, have been trying to point at, is that this is inside of us. Whether it's the story of Isis and Osiris, where she tries to rebuild Osiris by bringing together his pieces and putting them back together, or the hero's journey that we have come to realize in modern psychology, that there's this path of development of the individual, or the religious texts from Christianity or Judaism, or pick any of them, that it is really about this understanding of the reintegration of the person between the outer expression and the true inner self. And so I call that the fall, right? That's really the fall, is you fall into your ego. You're fully descended into the place where you need to measure and you need to think and you need to weigh every single thing. And what you've fallen out of is this place where the throne room is, where God is within you. And it is a place that is more by sense. It is a place that moves without measuring and without weighing every single thing, and without necessarily knowing what the outcome of something will be in advance. Intuition, right? I ended my last video by saying I heavily move, I strongly move with intuition. Now, I didn't always. That's something that I had to relearn, because I had become, because it hurt so much. There was so much pain from living this real integration with all of the things that happened to me. And I hadn't walked in the darkness and reintegrated my interior self, where I was really and truly hurt, right? I'm not just hurt in my persona, in my exterior. The hurt is, those are symptoms. Things that I did on the exterior of me were symptomatic of a problem that was in me, in my true self, where these wounds had descended. And until I could heal those things and walk again with the one who made me freely, without being afraid of being naked, right? This nakedness is not about my body. It is the nakedness of who am I? Am I more than the things that I did? Or am I the sum of some pieces and parts put together? I think we all know the answer to that. You are greater than the sum of your parts. If every cell of your body was disintegrated and could somehow be reintegrated together, you would still be more than that. It wouldn't be you. You are more than the sum of your parts. Until I did this healing, I could not rise back into my true self. And I'm not completely, my persona and my ego are constantly struggling to try and lay claim again, and then having to be humbled, having to withdraw, or to re-step into their true place. And it's a process, it's a balancing act between these things. But integrity means that you will always return back to this starting position, right? Your interior self is always the guidepost, it's always the lantern, the lighthouse. And as you go out into the world to do things, though you may stray away from your true self, you, when you have integrity, will always return back to that place. sometimes to heal, to recharge, renew, and develop more understanding as you experience things. This is my understanding of that line that I mentioned in one of my previous videos, that very short statement about after Jesus, Yeshua, after he is lost and his mother and father discover him in the temple talking to the elders, right? And they're all amazed by his wisdom, right? He's a kid. There's that short line about him returning and being subject to them in all things, which is part of this, right? Humbling yourself. And then growing in wisdom and knowledge, or in grace and knowledge, however the translation you have. And that is something for all of us. This is not simply about the one Christ, but about all of us to become this integrated self, the Christ, that we all must go through this same process of growth in wisdom and knowledge, right? In grace and knowledge. The reintegration of personhood. The descent into the ego is the reason why we overthink and we overanalyze, and we need to have an answer, and we need to control. We need to make sure the outcome is whatever. Fill in the blanks for yourself. Because we are so afraid, when we have not healed this gap between the true self and between your outer persona, we are so afraid of this trust in something that we can't necessarily prove in a given moment. We can't demonstrate some sort of evidence necessarily. The evidence is there, but you have to be looking for it. It always shows up in the connectedness of things, what we sometimes call synchronicities, that are a message to you, speaking to you that you're not alone, and that what you're doing is not disconnected from what is real. But it's not the same as being able to take a tape measure and saying, aha, this is 12 inches, right? This is 1 meter. But we need to understand something. If you encounter a real scientist, not someone who's performative, who's being dogmatic, just like a religious person, if you encounter a real religious person who is not being dogmatic, like that monk that I talked about in my retreat, where I had this aha moment in my purgatory story, right? Where he was like, do what you will, right? God is with you. He put that in you to do. But if you talk to other people who are dogmatic, whether it's religiously or scientifically, they control and talk about things as if they are set in stone, right? But here's just a little example of how we lie to ourselves, because we're looking for surety, and we're looking for consistency and an ability to determine outcomes and feel safe, right? Every measurement we take is a lie. Let me repeat that. Every measurement we take is a lie. I know this in a way that a person who works with material and who does practical work with their hands that has to have an outcome, in a way that can teach you in a very special way. So for example, my tape measure that I measure out distance with is not always exactly the same. You can compare this yourself, if you test it yourself, depending on temperature, how old it is, right? The mechanism within the device that you're using, and just the fascinating way that physics actually interacts with you. It is not exactly the same from one moment to another. The units of measurement that we create, right? We have standards of measurement. And we take them for granted, mostly because people don't have to interact with them in such a granular way that they need extreme precision. But there's something very fascinating. For example, there is a grand kilo, right? The master kilogram by which the unit of measurement kilogram is compared against. And this master kilogram is it is preserved in such a way to try and make sure that it does not degrade over time. But the irony is that as much effort has been taken to try and preserve this starting point unit of measurement by which then every standard can be based on, it is not the same as when it was first made, which is hilarious as fuck. If you let it be. If you desire control, that's scary as shit, right? Because it means that the underlying presumptions about measurement, about determination, not determination like having fortitude, determination of something is X, Y, Z, right? That it is always fundamentally based on something that we don't actually know is accurate. We are making it so. We are speaking a kind of faith into being when we say, this is 12 inches. And so all we've done is we have embraced in our ego, in this descent into this animal mystic self, this exterior representation, we have decided that that is more deserving of our faith than the thing that is true within us, because we have become deterministic. If you take the story of Genesis, the Christian or before Christians, the Jewish myth, and you look at it in those terms, re-look at it, reread the damn thing, and put Adam and Eve in that position. Not about some exterior place, but about this need to determine and to have outcome, right? Then you can look at the moment when Eve is tempted, right? As the thought coming into her mind. Remember, I talked about evil spirits being thoughts, all spirits. Everything that is spiritual is something intangible, just like an idea or a thought. You can look at that moment then as simply she had the dawning of her realization that there was something other than trust in what was unprovable, trust in what you couldn't measure, trust in this internal life. And she fell out of it. Knowledge of good and evil. She fell out of trust and union with her true self. This is not something to say against Eve. Again, Adam and Eve, these are placeholders. They're not singular individuals. We need to stop thinking about it this way. They are you. You have Adam and Eve in you. In a very literal way, because even physics has demonstrated, science has you can use DNA and DNA mapping to see that our chromosomes all go back to what looks like an original origin point, like a singularity, and or an individuation. But that's would confuse us if we simply think in those terms. It's that every person has within themselves Adam, right? which is, Adam means many different things. In Hebrew, it's the living one, the red one, like I think meaning full of red, full of life, blood. Sorry. There's something else, which I'm forgetting. And Eve is the mother of all the living. We are both of those things, regardless of what our sex is in our body, whether our sex is masculine or feminine. Every one of us has a femininity and a masculinity. The femininity is our ability to receive and to take into ourselves, right? Like the female pipe fitting, or what we use all of these descriptors to represent. And the masculine is what moves out into the world and then returns back to the feminine to receive sustenance and to rebuild and repair so that it may go back out again. Every one of us carries those energies, let's call it that. And they are very much connected into the ego and the true self, this inner reality and this exterior expression, right? So we might call the exterior expression of self the masculine, and we might then call the interior true self the feminine, right? And just as our bodies, the femininity, the body parts and glands that represent femininity are hidden, right? They are not as visible. So too the masculine is very visible, and to the outside is a representation of this inner truth about ourselves, that the persona and the representation to the outside are very visible, and we can be tempted to think that that's it. But the true self, the hidden part of us, the thing that we are afraid to even admit to sometimes, that's hidden away. And we try, and there is an understanding, not just because psychology exists, because that's rather recent, but through all of human history, that there is a healing that needs to be done, right? Again, why we have all these mythologies that talk about healing processes. Again, Isis and Osiris, for example. Shiva and Shakti. I mean, all these different stories. It's that we're trying to get back at, trying to get an understanding and a grasp on the fact that we forgot who the fuck we are. And we lost this continuity, this integrity of self. And so what religions and philosophy have been trying to do is to rebuild a sort of Tower of Babel back to that place that we were at. But we're doing it just like psychology often does this. We're doing it very much from the outer persona. And I'm not saying all psychology is this way. Certainly Carl Jung doesn't sound this way. But we're tempted, those who practice, the practitioners of these different methods, religion, psychology, spirituality even, though less so. We are tempted to have to build everything logically, to have all these pieces and to stack one thing upon another. But in reality, the truth is always fucking right here. You can cut through and jump straight to the fucking end. But it requires a surrender to the thing that you can't fucking see. To put just as much faith in the real self, the true self, and the one who made you, as you put in the goddamn tape measure, in the Grand Kilo, that you're so sure is 100% accurate, and it fucking isn't. Whoops. I knew this was going to happen. I happened to be on call, so this video cannot go for much longer. I'll take that as sign that this video is complete. So there's so much more to say about this, of course. There's so much more to dig into. I hope that this gives you more to think about, to challenge yourself, to be challenged about. And go and double check on these things yourselves. Don't just believe me. Go hunt, search, be hungry for what is real, and challenge your goddamn assumptions, okay? Challenge your opinions and the things that you dogmatically hold on to as if they're fucking real, and find what is actually real, okay? Don't just believe something. I love you guys. Fucking let go. And come join me in goddamn paradise, people. Let's not fucking play around. Let's do it. I'm gonna do this again, of course. Please be human. What else is there?